Well, since I made my diagnosis announcement at work, and it was a pretty small, close office, they knew something was going on. So telling them was the easy part. Getting them to work with me to help me through the situation was what's tough. And they meant well, but I'm the go-to person without even meaning to be. And when I tried to step back, basically, instead of like picking up some of the slack to help me make it a little easier, they basically just put that slack aside for me to deal with later. And that was another frustration. And then one of the things I did was I lessened some hours, which was great, but then the days I would go back to work, I'd have to work more to make up for it because my coworkers still piled stuff up on my desk. And then the big thing that happened with me after about 6 months at work, the doctor's office upgraded their computer system, and after a week of training, I just couldn't learn it. And that was a huge scare and frustration. I would take notes, and I would go back to the notes. They'd be in my handwriting. I recognized my handwriting. I didn't understand what the notes meant. There was so many screens to look at, and that was part of the frustration. I would stay late to work with a trainer to learn, to try to learn this, and everybody else who would already learn it would go home, and I'd be there alone, but I'd still have to be answering the phones. And after a week, when we were supposed to be live, I had no idea how to do my job anymore, and then I had to leave, and that was tough. And my employer didn't really understand that. He wanted to work with me to try to make something different, but anything he suggested involved more of those cognitive difficulties, and so that was hard to have to say. I've been working since I was 10 years old. I'm very independent, so to have to be in that position where I can't do this was another one. That was probably scary. That was a really hard part. And then what was really tough after that was trying to find something else I could do. And I went to my state government, who assigned a vocational counselor, who was not helpful at all. I've tried different things. I've tried childcare, which was great. I love children, but then there were a couple of times where I was watching children and I wasn't sure that was such a good idea, depending on how I felt. I tried mystery shopping, which was interesting, but you don't make a lot of money at that. So I started writing, and I actually wrote my book before the blog. And the idea was I was going to become a famous writer and sell millions of copies and be rich. And that hasn't really happened, but it's definitely kept my brain engaged, and it's led to the blog. And it opened up a whole another world that I didn't expect.